So a bit of a background on testing and optimizing in Fresh Relevance. So as part of the advanced testing and optimization module, you'll get access to the Optimize Center, which everyone will have access to as standard. You then will have access to A/B tests, which everyone will have access to. But also as part of the advanced testing and optimization module, you can also auto-end your A/B tests. So you can set a specific parameter on your A/B tests, and you can set a date for it to end. And then once it is ended, it will automatically filter to that specific goal. We then also have automatic optimization of individual pieces of content or the entire customer experience across channels. And that is the automatic optimization I was talking about earlier. So you can sort of test and optimize things automatically without you having to do anything other than setting it up. And Fresh Relevance, the system will do it all for you. We also have an integration with Google Analytics. So as standard, you get that as part of Fresh Relevance. So you can track everything in GA. However, with the advanced testing and optimization module, you can also add some extra sort of more rich data, I believe. Is that right, Daisy?
Yep, lost my mute button. Yeah, so we've got an integration with Google Analytics. So it's really sharing that test data so that you can do advanced reporting in that platform. I'm sure you've got reporting in so many suites at this point. So we've gone the integration route so that you can look at that one source of truth. The Optimize Center in Fresh is great as well, though. So you've got both options.
Nice. So yeah, that's all available to you. Next is sort of the route around what you'd probably want to rather do, whether you go for an A/B split test or whether you go for an automatic optimization test. So what we have on the left is our A/B tests. So A/B tests we find work better for short-term static content. The KPI-based improvements, so for example, trigger stage time or impressions. It works better in larger optimization programs. And then at the end of an A/B test, you have your final winner that you'll select and go with after that. So A/B testing is always great. It's really, really useful. However, for me, the cooler one, the one that I really, really get excited about, is the automatic optimization. And that is for a more long-term fluctuating content, such as seasonal purchase patterns, or even short-term things such as your business as usual mail outs. And if you have that going out, we can put on an automatic optimization. And then as soon as that goes out, after only a few people have interacted with that email, it'll automatically start to optimize it and show the most effective results to your customers. It's very quick to find a winner, as just mentioned, and is also great for standalone testing. And then also when traffic isn't always at the best, if it's not always doing too good, it'll still be tested because, as we said, times change really quickly, and suddenly overnight something can come out of nowhere and be really, really popular and really, really effective. So that is why we'll always try and retry that, the traffic that isn't always doing the best of the stuff.
It's such an interesting method. So you might have heard us and Jonathan calling it the multi-arm bandit. So that's the statistical method that sits under the hood. And essentially, when you run an A/B test, you're going to put a split of your audience. So let's say 50-50, 50% of your audience always going to get content A, 50% always content B, until you either end it automatically or manually. So it's fairly straightforward, but what's really cool about the automatic optimization is, just like Will said, it starts learning really early which content's better and progressively shows it more. So rather than it being 50-50, let's say it gives Jonathan content A, Will content B. If Will interacts with content B, it's going to start showing me content B more likely. So you get those effects really quickly, to the point where you can actually optimize within an email send, because those first people that open it are feeding the algorithm, the AI underneath, so that by the time the rest of the 90% of your audience, of course, depending on send volumes, would then start seeing the winning content. So think about like sales promotions. You don't get a chance to A/B test and then put in the winner. An automatic optimization is going to put the winner in place for you at a speed that you pretty much just can't react to. And that's why it's so cool. Sorry, I get really excited.
I know you do. You won't. I hate to say that you will not shut up about these optimizations, but at the same time, you are our data nerd, so you can't blame me. Cool. So I'm going to hop into the platform now, and we're just going to sort of go over a little bit on how we can set up these tests. So I'm here just on the Smart Blocks page. It's nice and easy. So I've gone onto the Content tab, and I've clicked on Smart Blocks down here. I'm just going to show you how we can duplicate a smart block, maybe change a little segment about it, and then we can start to test it in the slot. So we've got this new PDP recommendations variant that's currently in the demo store. What I'm going to do, I'm going to click on it, and then you see here we have a little duplicate button just here. I can click on that, and it'll automatically set up a duplicate. I'm just going to give it a quick WD at the start, just so I know exactly where it is, and it's easy for me to find. I'm then going to just press save here, and then it will have cloned it just here. Then what I can do is I can go on to our slot page, and then I can start to do a test within the slot. So for anyone that's unaware of what a slot is and what a smart block is, a smart block is our piece of content. So they could be maybe a product recommendations like that one that's there, a PDP recommendations. And then a slot is our placeholder. It's almost like a bit of a virtual picture frame where all of our content is housed. So you've got our smart block, which is the picture, and the slot, which is our picture frame. We're then going to put the picture into the picture frame, and then we're going to test to see what the best picture is. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and just use an existing slot that we have just here. And then I can click on to the Rules tab. And then as you can see here, we have different smart blocks in the slot. So I can click on Add Smart Blocks, and then I'm going to find that one I literally just made. I have made quite a lot in the demo store. There it is, the WD duplicate. And what I can do is drag and drop it on top, and then I can configure it by clicking up here. We then have all the options here. So we've got A/B test, or random, or rotate. These are three options you get as standard. And then with the advanced test and optimization module, you also have the option of the multi-armed bandit. And with that, you can select the goal for your optimization. So on this one, for example, what I want to do is I want to increase my average order value. So I want to show the products that have the best increase in average order value. I can then press save up in the top right, and it will automatically start that right away for me. With A/B testing, what I can do is set it off at 50-50, or I can use this slider here to sort of manipulate it. So maybe I want to do my one only 30% of the time. So I can put that to there. And with the advanced testing and optimization module, again, we also have the option to end the split test automatically on a specific date. So let's say I want to end it in a couple of weeks, which will be in September. Let's go for the 14th of September. And then my goal for this one will be to increase average order value. So on that specific date, whichever option is giving the most average order value, I will have that going out at all times. So those are the options we have for optimizing in Fresh Relevance. Anything to add there, Daisy?
Just a quick one on the multi-arm bandit, and it's probably a bit more of an advanced feature, so you won't use it yet. But under the sensitivity interval below, that is an option to say how long that test is going to work. So let's say that you've had some content that's been winning for 4 months. You might want to reduce the window so that it recalculates again. So that's something to play around with, but it's not something you probably look into using until you've had something running for maybe 3 months. So I don't expect you to remember. Just drop us a note where you get there, and then we'll take you through it at that point in time.
Nice. So that is how we test and optimize. Are there any questions for anyone just yet? I'll take silence as gold on that one. So that is exactly how we test and optimize in Fresh Relevance. So I'm going to back to the deck now and go through some really nice ideas of what we can do. So how can we help customers coming on to your website? So here are just some ideas around what makes your customers tick. I think that's the most important thing to think about. What makes your own customers tick? You know, we can look at all the research we want. We can look at all the data we want from other people that they've done. but each business's customers are going to be different, and each of them are going to interact with things differently. And the best way to find out is by testing it yourself and having a look at all the data that you have. So the first thing I want to talk about is, do coupons help your new customers make their first purchase? So often we'll talk about giving out coupon codes and sort of showing a nice 10% off to your new customers. However, maybe it doesn't really work and you could be throwing away 10% of your revenue. So that's something you may want to test and optimize to see exactly how effective it is. Does showing 10% off work most about getting conversion over the line? Or just showing no coupon at all still have that same effect?
You might also want to test the threshold. So it might be that 10% off gets you as much interaction as 15% off, and you're just giving away that 5%. So even if you are running coupons, there's still thresholds that I would recommend testing. We've definitely found some interesting results that can put a bit more in your pocket.
Yeah, and something else to know about Fresh Relevance is we also have the option to have up to 2 million unique coupons uploaded and distributed out. Something I was actually mentioning to Daisy earlier was companies like Pouch and Honey, where they can sort of circulate very quickly standard coupon codes like your sort of welcome 10s. So one thing to know about in Fresh Relevance is you can have unique coupon codes uploaded. If you have something to produce all those unique coupons, we can upload up to 2 million in one go. So something definitely to consider. Next up is thinking about the different products you want to show on your website. So are your best sellers the most effective products to show to your customers? Or maybe do want to go a little bit different with them? So I think the last time I checked, we have over 30 data sources in Fresh Relevance. And so it's a case of wanting to test and optimize them, see exactly what works best for your customers. We can also do things around personalizing to different people. So do you maybe want to show different content to your new customers to see what works best for them? And then what works best for your sort of existing customers that have a lot of purchase history. So do we use AI to recommend to them? Do we use dynamic product recommendations where they're specific to one customer? Or do we use those crowdsourced data sources? So your best sellers, maybe the products that are most frequently browsed, or the ones that are most frequently put into the cart. Those are all the options you have available to you. So there's a lot there to sort of test and have a look into. Daisy, is there anything else you wanted to sort of add on that one?
No, you covered it pretty well. I will plug my recommendation documents though. So if you're not sure about what tactics you might want to optimize, I've got a document that we can send around at the end that says for different channels what you might want to try. So we've done some of the thinking work for you, and you can just go in and set them up and see what lands.
Yeah, I was definitely going to send around those. So we've got 3 lovely blogs, one on recommendations, one on triggers, and then one also on data capture popovers. So what we can do and looking at what we can optimize with those. Next up, we have different things about the real estate. What real estate do your customers like on your website? And this one was actually coming about after a talk that we were at. I don't know if any of the customers on the call were at the Fresh Relevance Summit. I'm pretty sure I remember Sarah Vanna being there. I think Jonathan, maybe if you were there as well. There was a really interesting talk by someone about sort of how real estate and things that are on the website can influence customer decision making. And this comes back to the fact that 95% of decisions are subconscious. So showing different colors even and different imagery. And this is something I may even bring Jonathan in on, because what we're doing right now is really interesting around sort of button color and seeing what works best. How's that one actually performing for you, Jonathan?
I'm trying to find it in the optimize center, because I think we had a banner on that was like a reduced price on one of our products, and I think last time I looked, the yellow one was increased conversion, but it was a multi-arm bandit test, so that was the one that was winning when I looked, I think, when I last spoke to Sam. So I have to try and see which one it is now. But yeah, it's surprising that for some reason beats blue.
It's really interesting the fact that yellow is just working for you. It's definitely something where there's something subconscious about the color. Maybe it stands out a bit more to your customers because of maybe brand colors being a bit different. But this is all stuff that people can really easily test and optimize to see what's most effective.
I heard a really interesting story actually. So it wasn't a customer of ours, I don't think, it was something I read online. But so this company was testing free returns messaging on their checkout page. And they just put something in, put some messaging in saying, hey, did you know that our returns are free? And then when they put it live, it started tanking their conversions. And when they A/B tested it, they actually found that it had an adverse impact. So I think the assumption that I'm going with as the article was that actually messaging like that for this company in particular lowered the confidence in the purchase. And actually by putting in place something that ultimately you would assume is going to improve people's confidence, knowing they can send it back, actually had that opposite impact. So it is important to test not just how you're saying, but what messages you're putting in different places as well. Because I wouldn't have expected that, but kind of makes sense, I guess. These days you expect free return, so maybe putting it on there is a bit more of a I guess a distrust indicator.
I mean, it's definitely something to think about. Not always assuming with anything nowadays, and trying to test it and have sort of background information behind it is really important. So that's definitely a good example. Another one that we heard about that isn't a client of ours, but they were going through a bit of a rebrand. They wanted to know what color worked best for their branding. So each week they had a different color going live, and they found the one color in particular worked best for making people spend more on the products that they were buying, and so they went for that color. So it's all different ideas around different things that might work best, and it's sort of color and also shapes, wording. Different things like that can be tested and optimized. Next up is one for reviews. So what kind of reviews help build the trust of your customers? So at Fresh Relevance, we have integrated ratings and reviews with, I think, 6 or 7 integrated providers. And one thing that's really cool that we can do is we can filter by keyword. So for example, what we could do is we can add in only reviews to show that have the words quick or easy to your new customers, and see if that has any impact on their decision making. Sort of giving them that bit of reassurance that their products will get there quickly, or it's really easy to make a purchase, or that it's a really, really easy journey after you made a purchase to set everything up. And it's giving peace of mind to your customers. So showing those ratings and reviews, but being a little bit more different with them, and maybe not showing all of them, and maybe refining it to only show a few select ones. And seeing exactly what ones work best for your customers. Next up, we have a bit of more on the social proof module, which is what social proof messaging gives the most urgency to your customers. So I don't know if anyone on the call does know what social proof is, but essentially it's an option we can have in Fresh Relevance to add in a bit of urgency messaging or scarcity messaging. I think I first saw it on eBay, I want to say, where we have sort of X amount of gone today, or X amount are going right now. So we have sort of all that stuff around how many have been purchased, how many have been put into the cart, how many have been bought, or even how many are currently in stock. If that data is available to us in Fresh Relevance, if the script's picking it up, we can show it based on the stock level as well. And whether that urgency messaging drives it, and what exactly is the best message to show to your customers. That's a really, really cool thing that I've thought about. And something I really want to try and optimize with the client and see exactly what works best. I think we're trying to do a couple of things, or Dave's certainly trying to do a couple of things with some clients right now to try and get it working really, really well. So definitely something to consider.
Yeah, and I think tone of voice on these as well. So we all had a great example last week. We were working with a pet care provider and being able to say things like 20 happy pets today on your dog toy recommendations. And it's more than just creating urgency. It's how you can talk to your customers and how you can extend your brand voice as well. And yeah, social proof is everywhere now. I've seen it on Google as well now. So even if you're looking for a product there, it's making it onto your search page, and not even the shopping tab now. So yeah, looking for ways to stand out in the sort of evolving social proof area, I would say, is definitely a top optimization.
Definitely. And then last up for the website one is what's the best way to capture your identified customers' information? And notice how I said information there, because something that I'd always like to sort of just mention is the fact that we're also branching into SMS now. So Dave's got a great blog on how to optimize your data captures, which we'll send out after the session. But what's the best way to get the most information out of your customers? And what's the best way to get them to identify themselves? You know, often we'll find that having lower amounts of fields to fill in works best for your customers. So having sort of only just an email field to submit. But it's definitely something to think about, how we can get people to convert. You know, again, is showing the coupon the right way to go? Or maybe is it enough to say, well, subscribing to our newsletter, which tell you all about our best deals and offers. You know, we can start to look at different ways that we can optimize that. So are there any questions on any of the website of things, or any observations that anyone wants to make, or anything that people want to sort of go ahead and do after the call on the web? No, nice. Well, next up we have after the website, someone's abandoned your website. What helps to get your customers back? What helps to get them back on site and interacting with your company again? So first of all, what I want to think about is how we can make triggered emails feel a bit more personal. Often I can think with triggered emails that they can look a bit sort of samey and a little bit robotic, kind of, you've left site, come back please. Or you can be really, really personal with them, adding in first names, different things like that. So the first thing I wanted to consider, not only with triggered emails, but also triggered SMS, is do multiple channels help get your customers back onto your website? Something that was recently added to Fresh within the trigger programs on triggers is we can have up to 8 different messages going out per trigger program, and that's to help SMS. So what we can do is we can use email and SMS all at one to try and get them going out to different customers and trying to get them back onto your website. So do multiple channels help get your customers back onto your website?
There's an interesting finding on this one, actually. So one of our, it's an American retail client who's branched out into SMS. And when they were sort of testing it, they actually found that in-store purchases went up as well as online transactions. So the SMS seems to have some sort of real world impact. Perhaps it's that people are picking up that communication more quickly when they are out and about, and that's driving that footfall, as well as already increased online transactions. So definitely worth considering SMS if it's not on your radar yet, because we're seeing some really exciting uplifts for customers.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about, because I mean, I don't know about you, but my email is filled with different trigger messages, and this is ones that I just don't look at them anymore. But definitely starting to sort of get more SMS now that I tend to interact with more, and I get sucked into making purchases when I don't really want to. So definitely something to think about there. Next up is how many trigger messages are most effective. So I mentioned that we have up to 8 stages that are available. So do we want to increase the amount of emails that we're sending out? That's definitely something to think about. So often we'll see the customers have 1 or 2 stages set up. Maybe do want to have that 3rd stage going out with a little bit of a different message in there. So what we could do is maybe at the 1st stage, offer them to come back. The 2nd one will say maybe we've got some different products that you might be interested in. And at the 3rd, maybe we'll just do a little one to sort of nudge their attention again, maybe a couple of weeks after they're abandoned. So that's always something to think about. Next is just a personalized message make a customer engage more. So it's definitely something to think about, because when I see my first name or something, the naivety in me thinks that someone's gone ahead and typed my name out for me. When obviously I know it's something that's automated, but it's that personal thing of someone always thinks that someone there is actually thinking about them and what they're purchasing. So it's definitely something again to think about. Do we want to add a first name onto that if that information is available to us through either our triggered emails or our SMSs that are going out to your customers? We then also have social proof again, but do we want to add it maybe in a little bit of a different light? You know, do we want to add it to the cart layouts around the products that they've just abandoned? You know, do we want to make sure that they know that there's only 3 left in stock, and if they don't buy it now, they're never going to get it again? You know, giving that urgency for them to really come back onto the site again and again. It's really, really important. And then lastly, what can we show to help your customers find what they were looking for? So maybe someone went onto your website and they were looking for something in particular, but they just couldn't find it. So what we could maybe do is use our AI data sources to help them by doing some cross-selling. So what we've often found is maybe not even recommending or showing the product they abandoned, but showing just recommendations of other products similar to what they were looking at may help them drive them back to the site, so they realize, oh, that was actually what I was looking for. We have some really interesting data sources around similar products. So for example, we could do similar products to the last abandoned browse that can be really, really effective, especially on a seasonal basis, so around certain times of the year. This is something I've been looking at with a gift provider that we work with, because obviously you could buy different gifts to different people. So having something around the last abandoned browse is really, really cool. Again, on triggered messages, is there any sort of observations or anything that people have maybe tried that work really, really well for them? No. Daisy, is there anything you wanted to add on to that one, maybe?
Nope.
Nice. We have got one more as well, which is something around your business as usual emails as well. So what is the best content for your business as usual campaigns? And what I really wanted to talk about is how we can maybe make business as usual less usual, because for me, what I find is they're all completely the same every single time. And maybe I'm finding that I'm not really interacting as much because everything, I'd always think it looks exactly the same pictures, the same messages, the same products and different things like that. So first of all, and it's back to Jonathan as well, with the different colors for the action buttons, and it's worked really, really well for a lot of our different clients. So do you want to maybe change up and go for yellow and see if that works best for you? Or maybe is a different color work better? Is green better? Is blue better? We don't know until we've tried it. So going ahead and sort of changing up the colors on those buttons in your business usual emails on the product recommendations could be a winner. We then have to think about the products that stand out the most in your business as usual emails. So at the bottom, often we'll put recommendations to your newsletters, into your blogs that go out to your customers. But is there a specific type of data source that works best? I mentioned earlier there's up to 35 different ones to use. So go ahead and try different ones and see if there's any that stand out the most to your customers.
Interesting observation on that one as well. So a fashion retailer that I was working with tested our crowdsourced data sources. So those are the ones that out of everyone on your website, what are the most purchased, what are the most purchased items? They tested that against most carted and most browsed. And they actually found that showing most carted items was most successful. Not what people are buying, it was what people were putting in their cart. I don't know whether perhaps part of their sort of model is a bit of a, I guess, a treasure hunt. So whether that really played into their customers and their branding and the way that their customers shop. So yeah, definitely have seen more weird outcomes to testing than I have seen outcomes I was expecting, which yeah, is definitely a good reason to optimize as much as you can.
That definitely is what comes back to that 95% of things are subconscious. You don't even think that you're doing it. So what you assume would work well may not always work well. So definitely testing and optimizing anything is really, really important. Next up is imagery that makes your customers engage the most. And this is something around sort of having things in the background that work really, really well. So this is an example that is unfortunately not possible with cross-channel personalization in Fresh. However, it was something in the background of a supermarket and the different music in the background of a supermarket and a wine aisle, and how a stereotypical German music in the background make people buy more German wine, which I didn't even know existed, to be honest. And it's something really, really interesting to think about. So in Fresh, we can start to look at different imagery in the background of your emails and how that can maybe influence customer decisions. And there may be products that you really want to get out the door that week. So we can add that into those emails and see if it increases the amount of times that's been purchased. Always something important to consider. And then finally, how many products do you want to show at a time in your business as usual emails at the bottom? Often you'll see 3 at the bottom. Is that maybe too much? Or is that maybe not enough? Do you want to maybe increase that to 6 or 9? Or maybe do you want to decrease it down to 1? As standard, we have up to 20 that you can include in any given recommendation smart block. So definitely think about what you want to do with it. So any other observations on business as usual emails? Any questions? Well, again, Daisy, anything to add?
I guess just a note that, as I was mentioning earlier, the automatic optimization is always going to be a great one for email content just because of that recency. Still as powerful on web. But then the other thing I would say where the automatic optimization is going to be great for you on email is that changing of content. BAU emails, your monthly newsletter, you want to be as hands-off as possible with that. I think it's, from what I've gathered, the bane of every marketer's life is coming up with the content for that every week. So what the optimization also is going to do for you is keep content fresh, keep it consistent across seasons, because it's going to learn not only what is working now, but it's that change. It's also worth mentioning that we're working on a new type of the automatic optimization, which I think we're calling Automatic Optimization Plus, super catchy. And that's going to start taking in people's context. So it'll start to work out what content's better at a certain time of day, in certain weather conditions, in certain locations. So the speed that this AI is starting to move on now, I mean, industry-wide, it's pretty nutty anyway. But yeah, definitely starting to look at those ways that you can be as hands-off as possible. And then all you're going to have to do is to duplicate things, tweak a couple of bits and pop it live. John, if I can put you on the spot, how long roughly would you say it takes you to put an optimization live in Fresh?
It takes longer to actually do the smart block, build all your smart blocks. But say if you're just doing 2 smart blocks, like Will did earlier, you just duplicate it and make a change on one, and it's just drag and drop. So minutes, depending on how complicated your blocks are. But yeah.
Yeah, and Will mentioned as well, we've got some optimization plans we can send around to you. So if you've got triggered emails, we've already got the 3 things you should start with, and you can start working through those. And we've beautifully positioned the things that are less resource intensive. So less block editing, as Jonathan mentions, and more of the duplicates and tweaks, especially if you're using our new smart block flow. I don't know if we've shown it to everyone, but a lot of the UI is very toggle on, toggle off. You've got so many easy options to change CTAs, font, styling, layouts. It really is a couple of clicks, particularly for the visual elements. And then even the tactical things are getting a lot easier and fresh. So yeah, definitely take a look at those documents, because those are going to be your golden time savers for sure.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely something to think about, especially with the AI. Unfortunately, product don't like to tell Daisy and me what is actually powering it, because there's no way blab to everyone about it. But yeah, it's definitely very, very cool stuff, we've been assured. So I think the nice place to sort of wrap things up with is sort of looking at where you should start with things. So I mentioned we've got the 3 blogs that we can send around to you, which will show you on each area where to start. There's different things that you might like to consider at each stage. So first thing to think about is the pain points that you're experiencing and what pain points your customers are experiencing. And again, I'm going to bring this back to this talk that we were at the Fresh Summit, where they were looking at a supermarket and seeing that people, when they move the tomatoes, were experiencing the symptoms of a panic attack, and how making sure that your customers have the least stressful experience possible will help them purchase more. So looking at your customers' pain points on your buying journey will always help in trying to optimize and seeing exactly what works best for them. Then we can look on some opportunities, having a think about what the opportunities are that you have. Maybe where you're not really performing like you'd like to be. Maybe your conversion rates are down in certain areas, and maybe there's another thing that you could try. And then always at the end, looking to refresh things. I said at the start about how things have changed more in the last 2 years than they have in the last 50. And I think now it's going to get even worse with it's going to be changing more every month than it has in the last 20 years. So, having to make sure that everything is always refreshed and up to date and trying different things all the time is the best way to really try and make your marketing as effective as it can be. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to pass it over to you. And I'm sort of going to try and understand where maybe you want to go with this and see if there are any questions from anyone, or if there's anything that anyone maybe wants to see set up in Fresh and see how exactly we go about doing it. Any questions?
Does anyone have any pain points that I've noticed? So perhaps high bounce rates on certain portions of your site, or any content that's not getting the interactions you're expected?
I had a reporting question, if that's okay. I guess I'm interested in terms of how you're tracking the reporting from the optimization. So obviously, I've got the deck. I understand how to get into the reports, but are those being tracked based on click, or based on impression, or based on what? I guess is my question.
Very good question. Do you want me to take this one, Will?
You go ahead. I'll go to the Optima Center for you.
Fabulous. So our Optimize Center is your best way into your tests. They're all going to be listed here, and then Will's going to click into the reporting for us. So this is going to take you to our comparison report. So this might be familiar to you, Steve, and you've got the drop down in the top left for all the different reports. What might be different here that you've not seen is that there's some new reporting options, the ones that start with optimization. So what we've added into the system here is the impression data and what existed before. So your on-site or off-site metrics in that list, that was the previous click data. So I guess long story short, both is your answer. Before we only had the click, but now these optimization ones will give you the impression data. So for everyone's benefit on the call, our reporting before we couldn't take into account whether content had been seen. It was only whether it had been interacted with, which things like social proof, maybe some sort of sales banners in particular, they might not get the clicks to then be measured properly. So we've resolved this with these optimization metrics. So they're the same splits as before, Steve. So you've got your purchase quantity, average order, revenue per milli, all of those things, but using that that sort of scene data or that impression data.
So example, optimization conversion rate, which is what I focus on. That's based on customers who've seen the content. I guess to your point, social proof is a really good example. You want to know how many people saw it and how many people converted, whereas a product carousel or a recommendation block is slightly different. You probably want to see how many people clicked on it and then converted. I guess that's where I'm just a bit lost.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can use either of those. I don't know what the automatic optimization. I'm not sure which one that uses. So let me take that one and get back to you on it.
Yeah, it's a question I've had in my head for a while, so I've got the right people on the call just to ask the question. So yeah, that's great. Thank you.
At least the right people to find the answers, Steve.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
The other thing just worth mentioning is that I've got a development with the tech team at the moment, because the way that our system measures which content to show, it makes a new decision every session. So in terms of repeat visitors, they might not get a consistent piece of content across sessions, which is impacting some of our attribution. So there is just something I'm getting fixed in that. But I'll make sure I share that with you. Well, everyone with the advanced testing optimization, I'm going to do a little blast out to you all, so that you'll be aware of that. But essentially, you'll be able to set, so I want this to make the same decision for this customer for a month, for example. And then we'll just make sure that that consistency between sessions isn't going to impact the measurements. Fabulous. There is also some reporting for the multi-arm bandit specifically. So that advanced insight, and it's got beta on it. I have to admit, I've not actually looked at these before, so we all get to learn together. But what it's starting to do is show you the wins and losses. So a win will be when someone sees it and then counts towards that goal, whereas a loss will be when they don't, for example. So for a data capture, your goal is to get that email or that mobile number. So it's whether it wins or loses against that particular goal. So this can take a little while to digest, but if anyone has run an multi-arm bandit and would like to just set up some time for us to digest it together, then you can grab us on our customer success email address, and we'd be happy to sit with you and explain how this is working.
I've not seen the screen before either, so it's pretty cool. Any other questions for anyone? Anything that anyone wants to discuss around different things they may want to optimize? Any ideas today that they're thinking, I want to do that, and they wants to see how to do it?
You get to pick our brains as well, whereas the content we'll show you will be generic, but we can suggest things specially for you if you've got any ideas you'd like to chat through.
I was just going to say, if you're stuck for ideas, just test different rules, the different data sources. That's the easiest thing to test.
Have you tested any of the filters, Jonathan?
I don't think so. I think most of the stuff we've done is either say like different content, like the color of the buttons, or different rules, like the sidebar on the product page. We've tested a few different rules there, for example. But no, I haven't done that yet. I'll add it to the list.
Yeah, my favorite thing that I'd recommend for you would be the best tag value filter and how many categories and which categories to pull from. So just for everyone's benefit, the best tag value filter and recommendations allows us to refine what we show to each individual based on what we know about them. So for Jonathan, it could be automatically choosing whether we want to show gold products or silver products, because depending on what your customers are making, it's probably going to be that there's fairly regular purchases.
Yeah.
So being able to refine in that way, but based on whatever information you have. So we have different, so the demo store that Will's got on screen, for example, we could decide, okay, should we be showing products that are in a customer's favorite colors? Or is it size that's most important? Or is someone going to have an affinity to, in this case, skis and snowboards? Wow, we nearly got through a whole session without talking about skis or snowboards, Will. So yeah, that's probably my favorite thing for after data sources. I think for anyone with the triggered email module, wait times is your golden test there. So how long after someone abandons your website would we want to trigger that cart abandonment message? We've seen quite varied results based on sort of 30 minutes to 60 minutes. So for example, Michael, I imagine that people are sitting and reading a sort of a product page for quite a while before they convert. So for you, a longer wait time would be appropriate than perhaps a fashion brand, where there's a bit more sort of urgencies and fastness about purchases. I love this hands-off demoing. So yep, you can go into your trigger program and it's as simple as changing the number in this box And then just like Will was showing in the slots as well, we can drag and drop that content in. So the actual setting up of an optimization is super quick.
I know you like me as your flight attendant.
Yeah. Need to work out where I am on people's screens so I can do it. And then, yeah, I think recommendations have so much to play with. The other thing that I would consider, just in terms of where to start, traffic sources are a really good one to look at as well. So who do you want to optimize content for? So certainly this topic's been coming up with a lot of our customers recently about how are we going to optimize our website for pay-per-click traffic, because that journey is so different. We're used to optimizing home pages. I'm sure many of you have optimization platforms specifically for optimizing your sort of homepage amongst other pages. But more than ever, customers are going straight to your product pages. So it might be that there's a certain audience or a certain journey that we want to optimize for. And that's where we can use, this is where we can use rules to select our different segments of people and to really optimize them differently. So it might be that the discount that you want to give to PPC traffic is lower because you're already spending to get them to your site, but organic traffic, you've not paid for them. So maybe a higher discount works for them, but they're different groups and you need to optimize them differently. So that is all available in our little slot interface, or again, our triggered email interface as well. I've seen someone do a really cool one where they were optimizing the messaging that they were using for customers that abandoned a large value cart. So it was a lot more luxury messaging they tried, and that actually really resonated with people that were about to, I think it was about £250 was the basket size we're looking at. So before inflation, it was a hefty amount to spend on a cart. So, you know, actually they found that segmenting that audience out and giving them more of a, I guess, a marketing cuddle really went that extra stage. So it might not be something blanket to try. It might be that you've just got a very small pain point or missed opportunity, and that's where you're going to see that ROI most quickly.
Okay. So we've got 7 minutes left. If there's any further burning questions or anything anyone wants to pick our brains about.
Has anyone heard us talk about an optimization they want to try after this session? Maybe just pop a hand up. Cool. Well, luckily, the blog content we're sending you has some different ideas in it, so you can read into those. We're not, luckily, you've got 2 bits of content to have a look through. And as always, if there are optimizations, pain points, opportunities, anything that you want to address, just drop us a note and we can take a look at that.
Definitely. Well, there's nothing else from anyone, then I think we can wrap the session up here. So thanks so much, everyone, for coming along. And we'll hopefully be in touch with you in the next day or so. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.